edition of Elation Communications video series on inclusive communications. We invite you to follow us and learn more about Elation Communications at www.elationcommunications.com. I'm very excited about our topic today. Today, we will be focusing on disability issues and inclusive communications. In honor of Autism Acceptance Month this month, in the month of April, I'm excited about our guest speaker, GiGi Shephard. I've had an opportunity to meet GiGi about a year ago, and she's a mother of a son with autism. So I'm very excited about our conversation today. She will be sharing more with us about her experience in supporting children with special needs. Welcome, GiGi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So GiGi is the founder of Noah's Buddy Foundation, which helps special needs kids and adults. And she also created a retail store at noahsbuddybox.com. And that helps to bring awareness to special needs. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself today, GiGi, and your experience with autism?
Sure. Well, firstly, again, I would like to thank you again. I thoroughly appreciate this. I love to talk to people about neurodivergent and my experience, and I love to help families because I know sometimes diagnosis can be a little intimidating. For starters, like you said, I'm GiGi Shephard. My son has been diagnosed with autism. Actually, a few years ago, he was actually prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome. And when he was 9, his medically complex pediatrician suggested that he get tested for autism. And I was like, okay, I just thought that he was nonverbal. I knew he had special needs. He was already attending a special needs school, but I said, sure, why not? I didn't think that he fit the mold, but turns out he did. He does, in fact, have autism. He is on the spectrum. Like other parents, probably with kids with Down syndrome, the autism diagnosis can go undiagnosed because of diagnostic overshadowing, which means that the behaviors that are attributed to Down syndrome instead of autism. I'm so thankful that he got diagnosed because he's been able to get more help in school. He works with an applied behavior analyst, which we call ABA therapy. She comes to his school and she also works with him at home. He is now 11 years old and he receives other therapies as well. And so early intervention and education is imperative for them to overcome as much communication challenges as they can. In my son's case, he is nonverbal and we do use a lot of sign language, but I'm really happy about the team that gets to work with him because and what they've done for him and how far he's come since his diagnosis.
Fantastic. Well, that's great that you've been able to find the right support system for him.
Yes.
So
yes.
You mentioned already some communication challenges or struggles that he's faced and that he's overcoming with the right support. Could you delve a little bit more into what are some communication challenges that people with autism struggle with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a number of them, but the ones I would like to highlight is, of course, social communication, right? Sometimes they have difficulty understanding and using verbal and nonverbal cues in social interactions. They have trouble or they can have trouble maintaining eye contact and understanding tone of voice and interpreting facial expression and gestures, so that can be difficult in social environments. Also, having pragmatic language. They have challenges understanding and using language in context. Mm-hmm. Nonverbal communication. In the case of my son, he can speak, but he is mostly nonverbal. And so for that, we do use sign language and things. Sensory sensitivities. They can have trouble processing differences, like they can have hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity, and they can really interact or have trouble interacting with stimuli like noise, touch, and certain lights, which can affect communication as well. Sometimes they have difficulty with turn taking, right? So that is in a conversation, taking turns, and they will interrupt or they have trouble waiting for their turn to speak, which can disrupt the flow of communication and cause some stress and some social anxiety. So
those are great examples. And so I'm curious. So did did you learn sign language?
Yes.
Oh, you did. So what was your journey in learning sign language? Did you enroll in class, or did someone come work with you, or how did that
Yep.
go?
So how it went, actually, when I was expecting my son, and like I said, he was diagnosed prenatally with Down syndrome, and I knew that some Down syndrome kids could struggle with communication again just for that diagnosis. And so when I was expecting, I happened to be in college. I went back to get my psychology degree, and I was actually learning a lot about applied behavior analysts. I took a course on sign language and I got an A. I was on the president's list that semester. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome.
I also watch Signing Times, which I love. It's available on Prime if anybody's interested. And I watched that with my son, and he was able to pick up a lot of things. So, and then I encouraged the therapist at school to help him with sign language as well.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks for sharing those tools and resources with our audience. I certainly will check those out. So that's awesome. And congratulations on being the president's list.
Thank you.
So again, with our focus on inclusive communication, could you explain why do you think inclusive and accessible communication is important for people with disabilities, particularly with autism?
I think that, what we want to do with people with autism and neurodivergent individuals is we want to facilitate understanding. And I think it's on both parts. Like we want to foster this, social connections. We want to support their independence. I think it's important for the neurodivergent and most importantly, the neurotypical community to understand like, okay, this is what it looks like, right? This is the issues that people can be facing, and let's work together to come up with communication structures or opportunities that reduces their stress and anxiety, that enhances their quality of life. And it supports, like I said before, it supports their independence. But I think it takes understanding on both parts. And specifically, I noticed before I was in this community, I didn't have that much of an understanding, but being here, this is my sweet spot, and I love educating people on opportunities to create better communication for them.
That's awesome. And what you're saying is actually one of my favorite points from Stephen Covey, seek to understand. And that is so important, really, in every aspect of communication, but particularly with this audience, right? And
Yes.
so thank you for sharing that. And then I think what you're saying, acceptance, which aligns with Autism Acceptance Month. And so
Absolutely.
what you're saying really is one thing to talk about it, but you have to be about it. And so that's being intentional and finding ways to connect in ways that resonate with people with autism. Could you give us some examples? Like, I really would like to hear about how inclusive and accessible communications has helped your autistic son. You mentioned that you were blessed to find a good support system. How are they implementing that with him?
What I love about where my son is now, let me take a step back. So before my son went to a typical school where they put all the kids with special needs in one classroom. And so that really wasn't a conducive learning environment to him. It was a public school. They had less therapies and things like that. So it felt more like babysitting. There was a point where he decided for me actually. So even him being nonverbal, I took him to school one day and he absolutely refused to go in. And so I speak for those who can't speak for themselves. And that was his way of saying, this is no good. I can't be in this environment anymore. And so I decided to homeschool him. And then I got a recommendation for him to go to this special needs school. And it has been a godsend because he's been there for 4 years now. And they foster these great relationships. So I love that these kids kind of go along with each other, each grade and everything. And then individually, they have assessments to see where they are and what they need. So he's able to go to language. He's able to go to speech therapy. He's able to go to physical therapy. He's able to have his ABA therapist in the classroom working with him on changing certain behaviors and communication as well. So it's really that they know him and they foster this education for him. And, I can't even express enough how much I enjoy seeing him light up when he goes to school and, sometimes I drop him off and the other kids who know him and all the teachers who have been involved with him. And so I think having that kind of family environment in the community for him has been amazing.
Wow. Well, what you have said are really some key components of effective communication, building trust and credibility and building relationships. And so that is fantastic. I hope that, all children with autism has received that kind of support. So you mentioned basically your personal community is supporting your son. What are some ways that you think in general in other communities of people with autism can practice autism acceptance and inclusive communications? What would be your key messages to them?
So my key messages would be to, foster this environment that promotes the understanding, right? Whether you have to have a speaker come in and talk about, what it is to be neurodivergent, whether you have to have education and awareness, right? Let's talk about the autism spectrum, within the community. Let's promote these opportunities for education and training on autism acceptance, neurodiversity, and inclusive communication strategies. Let's embrace neurodiversity, right? Let's create inclusive spaces. As you know, I am an event planner, consulting manager, and I specialize in neurodivergent events and differently abled events, and even inclusion of those events. So even if it's not an event that is specifically for that, I can come in and help people on creating these spaces that are comfortable for everyone. So creating inclusive spaces is really important to ensure that community spaces, events, and activities are accessible to welcome individuals on the autism spectrum. I would consider sensory friendly accommodations. There are tons of companies like there's a place in Disney World that has like sensory day. I can't remember offhand, but there's also like Chuck E. Cheese has sensory days. There's movie theaters who have sensory days that, the light is a little bit different. I would consider, having like quiet spaces in conferences, even if it's a space where you can just go and meditate or just kind of get away from everything, that offers, alternative communication methods such as visual support is great too. I can't say enough, to provide support and resources. We don't know what we don't know, but I encourage people to rely on your local autism community, your Facebook groups, your whatever you can to kind of promote that. Use inclusive languages and celebrate achievements. I saw a quote today and I thought about my son, and he got his report card yesterday, and I was like, it's so he doesn't have honor roll, but he has a few A's. He has a C in language arts or something. And guess what? I celebrate that because he's a nonverbal baby with a C in language arts. And I think that's the coolest thing. And he also has like a B in social studies and a B in math, which is great. So I celebrate his achievements. I celebrate do as best as you can do with what you have, work with what you have, and let's celebrate those contributions that autistic individuals have made to the community and recognize their perspectives and abilities. I didn't realize until I was in this space how many celebrities had autism, like Dan Aykroyd. And Einstein is autistic. So I was like, wait, what? So there's so many things that we can learn from these individuals. It's amazing to me.
Wow, that's a fantastic message, GiGi. Yes, we do celebrate Autism Acceptance Month and celebrate people like you who are making a difference, not only with your family members, but in your community and beyond. And it takes all of us, as you said, to get involved and to show our support and advocate for those who sometimes can't advocate for themselves. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I've learned a lot. And
Thank you.
yes, it's just been very enlightening, and I love your point about just working with organizations to create basically safe spaces for the community, whether it's an event or initiative or a communication that is tailored to them or not. There's always an opportunity to carve out space And so
Yes.
that is a
Yes.
very important point. And so I am very excited to our viewers to announce that the Elation Communication has recently rolled out our inclusive communications framework. And in it, you will learn more about the issues we talked about today regarding accessible communications. So again, visit our website to learn more about this new framework and ask yourself the question, are you an inclusive communicator? And there's ways that all of us can grow in those areas. So visit us at, again, our website, www.elationcommunications.com. And then follow us. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Threads at Jerrica Talks. We're on YouTube at Elation Communications, LinkedIn at Elation-Communications, and Facebook at Elation Comms. So thanks again, GiGi. We'll
Thank
hopefully have you
you.
back again soon.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, thank you.